Dear friends, disciples, and devotees, shortly before I left the ashram on March 17th, I met a man who was giving advice to the ashram on the coronavirus. I mentioned to him that Shradhalu, Alok, and Dr. Pachagankar had all said there was a contagion that occurred when one person who was immune to the virus would spread that immunity to others. The gentleman said this was all nonsense and not to believe any of it. He knew better. Of course, I did believe the words of those who truly know. And just the other day, our beloved friend Anmol sent me this from Mother. I am certain that many of you may have already been familiar with it, but I am equally certain that we all have to hear it again in this time of worldwide crisis. From the Mother, 14 March 1951. One thing that is now beginning to be recognized by everyone, even by the medical corps, is that hygienic measures, for example, are effective only to the extent that one has confidence in them. Take the case of an epidemic. Many years ago, we had a cholera epidemic here. It was bad. But the chief medical officer of the hospital was an energetic man. He decided to vaccinate everybody. When he discharged the vaccinated men, he would tell them, "Now you are vaccinated and nothing will happen to you. But if you are not vaccinated, you would be sure to die." He told them this with great authority. Generally, such an epidemic lasts a long time, and it is difficult to arrest it. But in some 15 days, I think, this doctor succeeded in checking it. In any case, it was done miraculously fast. But he knew very well that the best effect of this vaccination was the confidence it gave to people. Now, quite recently, they have found something else, and I consider it wonderful. They have discovered that for every disease, there is a microbe that cures it. Call it a microbe if you like, anyway, some sort of germ. But what is so extraordinary is that this microbe is extremely contagious, even more contagious than the microbe of the disease. And it generally develops under two conditions. In those who have a sort of natural good humor and energy, and in those who have a strong will to get well. Suddenly, they catch the microbe and are cured. And what is wonderful is that if there is one who is cured in an epidemic, 3 more recover immediately. And this microbe is found in all who are cured. But I am going to tell you something. What people take to be a microbe is simply the materialization of a vibration or a will from another world. When I learned of these medical discoveries, I said to myself, truly, science is making progress. One might almost say, with greater reason, matter is progressing. It is becoming more and more receptive to a higher will. And what is translated in their science as microbes will be perceived, if one goes to the root of things, as simply a vibratory mode. And this vibratory mode is the material translation of a higher will. If you can bring this force or this will, this power, this vibration, call it what you will, into certain given circumstances, not only will it act in you, but also through contagion around you. Such an important quote from Mother. And I will conclude with another one where one asks Mother, why does one feel afraid? I suppose it is because one is egoistic. There are three reasons. First, an excessive concern about one's security. Next, what one does not know always gives an uneasy feeling, which is translated in the consciousness by fear. And above all, one doesn't have the habit of a spontaneous trust in the divine. If you look into things sufficiently deeply, this is the true reason. There are people who do not even know that capital T, exists. But one could tell them, in other words, you have no faith in your destiny, or you know nothing about grace. Anything whatever. You may put it as you like, but the root of the matter is a lack of trust. If one always had the feeling that it is the best that happens in all circumstances, one would not be afraid. The first movement of fear comes automatically. There was a great scientist who was also a great psychologist. I don't remember his name now. He had developed his inner consciousness, but wanted to test it. So he undertook an experiment. He wanted to know if, by means of consciousness, one could control the reflex actions of the body. Probably he didn't go far enough to be able to do it, for it can be done. But in any case, for him, it was still impossible. Well, he went to the zoological garden, to the place where snakes were kept in a glass cage. There was a particularly aggressive cobra there. When it was not asleep, it was almost always in a fury, for through the glass it could see people, and that irritated it terribly. Our scientist went and stood in front of the cage. He knew very well that it was made in such a way that the snake could never break the glass, and that he ran no risk of being attacked. So from there, he began to excite the snake by shouts and gestures. The cobra, furious, hurled itself against the glass, and every time it did so, the scientist closed his eyes. Our psychologist told himself, "But look here, I know that this snake cannot pass through. Why do I close my eyes?" Well, one must recognize that it is difficult to conquer the reaction. It is a sense of protection. And if one feels that one cannot protect oneself, one is afraid. But the movement of fear, which is expressed by the eyes fluttering, is not a mental or a vital fear. It is a fear in the cells of the body. For it has not been impressed upon them that there is no danger, and they do not know how to resist it. It is because one has not done yoga, you see. With yoga, one can watch with open eyes. One would not close them, but one would not close them because one calls upon something else. And that something else is the sense of the divine presence in oneself, which is stronger than everything. Namaste.